Hey guys, Youthful Yields here. Sorry about getting this video out a little bit later on today, aka Sunday. Had a few things going on today, so yeah. But let's get straight on to the weekly performance for it. So, firstly, actually should just highlight this real quick. Bitcoin, which is still the asset that I have left in Robinhood, is up like 12.5%, or my portfolio up 12.5% since last week, which is pretty remarkable. Um, I think this last week, actually, this is pretty much responsible for carrying a lot of the portfolio in general, and I'll go into that. But basically, you can see 82 bucks off of this side because I don't have that much in Bitcoin. But remember, not too long ago, this was only worth like $525 on my side. So when I transferred it in, I think it's like only 525 or some close to 500. So total return so far is 42%, which is pretty crazy. Currently sitting right at 90K, 90.6K. So this was the all-time high. No, that was it. So almost 93K. I do think it's going to hit 100K sometime soon. I'm just not sure when, because what really bumped us up was the Trump election, or like Trump winning the election. So we'll see how this performs going forward. I'm not sure if there's going to be any humongous movement like that going forward. So it just might just take a while now, but we'll see. You can see I'm at 12% this week. That's actually a week after the election, so I believe, yeah, something like that. So, but going into the M1 Finance side of the portfolio, which is where the majority of our stuff is at, currently sitting at $5,377. And if I go in here, you'll see we have $333 and excuse me, and 62 cents in cash, and we have $5,044.33 in assets. So first thing that happened this week was we got a dividend, two of them obviously. We got $1.39 from XTTE, and then we got $109 from CONY, which is very exciting. You can see that in holdings dividend income here as well. It's the same thing. So yeah, I'm actually pretty excited though, because there is another uh dividend income. You can see, I think it's estimating $62 now on my side. Where is it, Misty? On my side, I actually think it's going to be way higher than this. And according to, like, retire on dividends, which I know his videos aren't exactly perfect in terms of the estimates, but they are decently close because he tracks, what they're actually doing, calls on. So, but he estimated somewhere like it being its new all-time high, but still being around $4 and some change. So I think I estimated that we're probably gonna get roughly about $100 off of Misty as well, which I'm really excited for. And this is actually part of the thing that I want to keep. I want to look at expanding this going forward, but I'm not really sure because it's so high right now. It's kind of a little bit scary, scary. But so QTOL, aka my TQQQ mix of BTOL, it did not go super well, to be honest. We lost a lot, but also Nasdaq 100. Um, that lost 3.6% last week, so Nasdaq did pretty poor. And actually, the majority of that I think was you can see on the 14th. Well, basically, starting on the 14th, it started going down, and then on the 15th, it really went down. So that's this 3.6%, or sorry, that's at 2.4%. The market's actually in general, if you also look at S&P 500, also had pretty bad, but Nasdaq was affected the most, and then also Dow. 30 was you know, down a little bit as well, but not severe as bad as the other two. So moving on, surprise. This is why we have Butol. I shouldn't say surprise, but that's why we have Butol is to kind of lighten the load from AK Hedge, the TQQQ. So I mean that's just expected. Um, moving on to the high yield dividends portion of our portfolio. This is what we got right now. So, uh, I want to. I said last video that I wanted to make a few changes to the percentages in this pie. So essentially, what I'm trying to do is just try to diversify as much as I possibly can, because I just am really scared of another earnings or something taking us out. In fact, um, speaking of earnings, on the 20th, Nvidia is coming out with their earnings. Um, so that's coming this week. That's 3 days from now. I think that's a Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. So, not that we have a humongous portion of our portfolio, and you can see in this specific pie, that's equated to 13.5%, but that can still make quite a difference, obviously. Every dollar counts, every dollar matters. So, I got to look out for that. But the idea here with XDTE and YMAX is really just try to maximize as much as we can going forward by diversifying into these funds. Now, YMAX is higher here because I am still willing to take the risk. The last few dividend payouts, okay, the last two weren't so good. In fact, I can hop into that. Yeah, let me go to there real quick, and I'll show off this in a second. So on YMAX, so the last two weren't very good, but the ones before that were pretty dang good. So if you change and ignore these, because these are basically because YMAX switched over weekly, these are just going to show a lot higher. But roughly speaking, it was about 60%. You can see here the average is 62%. And the average and the change I should mention happened on the 12th, I think, of September. So this is pretty much the entire thing. And you can see the average is still 57%, but the last two have definitely not helped at all. But 35% still better than XDTE. If we pull that up real quick. XDTE. And go distribution history. You can see 20%, 15%. So let's show my that color. But you can see, it's not like super crazy if we just take the entire thing. I know it's not exactly fair, but average of 23% if we take the last two, average of 23% as well. So it's less risky though, right? So YMAX, the reason they have higher is because they have more volatility. So when they do their options on it, their option calls on it, that's basically why they can do that, because it's composed of all of the different yield max funds. I had YMAG at the beginning of my investing journey, aka I think that was in July. But YMAG, I mean, that was also a bad time to hold it, I should say. I should mention. But YMAG, and actually, I can pull that up too, real quick. That's also going to have the same problem as YMAX did. You'll see here. So, 14%. You can see this one's a lot more volatile. Still averaging about 50%, but I'd much rather still spread out my entire portfolio as much as I can while keeping such a high yield. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is we do basically half our portfolio. I might bump this down to 50% and maybe like put a little bit more XDT. We'll see. This is still very much not super diversified, I have to be honest. XDTE is basically S&P 500, where YMAX is mainly mainly the Nasdaq. So, and we also have Nasdaq exposure through our TQQQ. So, um, maybe we get into something like the Dragon ETFs, aka the China ETFs. That'd be kind of interesting, because we can't really rely too much on these companies. Otherwise, when something like an Nasdaq 100 goes down, I mean, we're really gonna feel it. So, yeah. But actually, going back to this sheet, where is it? Amount invested. So I've been keeping track of basically the amount of money I've put in, versus the amount of money that we currently have. Now, I should also mention tomorrow, I think I'm planning to add another $1,000. So this is basically what I'm trying to do is add $1,000 a month. I mean, I could technically add 500, but I think I can add 1,000. So I'm trying to add as much as I can while still being kind of, have a little bit for some backup money. But yeah, just want to point that out. But as you can currently see, we can see that, you know, for the amount of money that we've put in, and this is including the Bitcoin, I'm technically saying that the Bitcoin was an expense from me, which, I mean, technically it was, but that was like 3 years ago, so I don't really think it counts. But I'm counting it because I don't want, I want this to be as close to someone else doing this as possible. But you can see here that we technically invested $5,010, and we can see here that the portfolio is currently worth, if you add up the Bitcoin plus the amount that's in M1 Finance, $6,125.23, which is about a 22.26% increase. You can see that over time. This is more indicative of the actual portfolio performance, but I was actually seeing, basically, if we can see here, the percent change or the percent increase, at any given date, because obviously when we add in those amounts, it's going to be a little bit, more interesting. But you can see we're still performing really good, and there is an upward trend on both of these charts. I don't have a trend line on here, but you can see obviously there's still an upward trend. Um, so yeah, but also this is the wrong date. I'm not really sure why that's that date. Let's do that. So, uh, and there is this thing called IRR, which is like internal rate of return. XIRR is like irregular rate of return, from what I understand, and this is basically money weighted rate of return, from what I understand. I think this is the only function you can use in Google Sheets to perform this, but this is saying, I believe, I'm still kind of learning here, obviously, but I believe this is saying that our portfolio is annualized percent, would be about 95%. Now, obviously, a lot can change within an entire year because we've only been doing this since July. But again, I wanted to mention that because we've only been doing this since July, and July was, let's see, uh, I can't do it on that one. Give me one sec. So July was 4 months. So basically a third of the year, I think. So keeping that in mind, 22% is pretty dang good. I could probably do this as going on Seeking Alpha. So let me do this real quick. If we open SPY and go to charting, I don't know why it does this so big, but if we do from July 1st, you can see this is saying the market's only gone up 7.41%, while our portfolio has gone up 22%. So again, I think we're doing pretty dang good if those numbers are correct, and I think they are because I basically used all of the videos from all of the values from my past videos, um, as well as I went through all of the different brokerages again, or that I was on. Just a reminder, I just switched to M1 Finance. I was on Robinhood, and I also was previously on SoFi at the very beginning. These should be in the entirety of all of the funds that we basically put in. So again, 22% is pretty dang good in my books. So if we could get somewhere, I'm already happy because we're already beating the market, we're already doing better than if we were just buy and hold SPY. Uh, so now obviously this is not really indicative of future performance either, because this entire time has been pretty much the same. You can see, relatively speaking, it's just gone up, besides maybe in August and the beginning of September apparently. But yeah. Now I'm gonna leave us off on the amount percent gains. I know these videos are kind of getting long, but I just kind of want to go through my entire methodologies. But if we use a percentage gain calculator, so this is the value from last week's thumbnail, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just verify that as well. Switch here. Yeah, $5,195 and 61 cents. Now you'll notice that this is $5,600, and that's because last video I also mentioned that I put in another $500 because I was expecting I wasn't expecting the residual sweep to also include my cash for some reason. But basically, we had a 7.5% increase from last week's video to this week's video, which is pretty dang good. So, I mean, I will take that any week. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very happy with this portfolio. I just really hope that YMAX can kind of perform pretty nicely while giving us a little bit of more room for diversity. So even if it performs, 30% annually, I do not care. As long as it's above, the amount that SPY is going. That's really the main thing here, is we're just trying to beat the market. And surprisingly, these funds although they're income funds and dividend funds, they're still doing very, very, very well in terms of total value, total return. Most of them, at least the ones I have. Now, there's obviously some like SMCY, which is not doing so well. I think I have that here under the sheet. SMCY. Right here. And these values aren't exactly correct because they don't incorporate splits, so don't look at it like, super holistically. But regardless, you can see here that, a lot of these um, are like pretty insane. So this one started at September 12th, and the percent change was 56% down. So yeah. One of the ones that I'm actually very interested in, but it's just again too expensive, is Palantir. PLTY, where are you? Where are you? PLTY. You can see they've gone up 26%, and they only started last month. So that's really interesting. Current last price that I have is $65, which is absurd. That's the highest, I believe, out of any of these by a long shot. You can see Misty's at $35, but we'll see what happens here. Anyways, that's it from me, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. And again, apologies for such a long video. I just, there's a lot to go through. So, yeah, as always, I wish you guys a wealthy future.